Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It's so good to be back. It's so good to see everyone. Hello. How are you doing? We've got some spicy topics to talk about today. So the Game Awards nominees are out. They are out. We've been debating really for most of the year, right? Which games are going to qualify? What's going to get the most nominations? Who's going to get snubbed? Well, they are out, and there is already, as always, tons of drama about who is nominated and who is not. So we can talk about that, right? Various categories, the big show itself, right? Game of the year, whatever you want to talk about. So the nominees are out. We can talk about that. Also, in a very surprising move, we got some, teases that this was going to happen. Even in the last live chat, it started breaking that Halo Infinite multiplayer was apparently going to launch early. It was hard for me to believe, but they did it. So we can talk about some of the early metrics for that, what it looks like, how it's doing, maybe some of the controversy around the Battle Pass progression, and if it was a good idea to launch early or not. We can go into all of that as well. And of course, as always, any video game industry news topics that you guys want to talk about. Now, if this is your first time ever as part of my live chat, basically the way this works, it's a stream totally driven by you, your comments, your questions. We basically just break down the big video game industry news of the week and what's going on. So start dropping those questions into chat, fill it up. There's going to be two ways to do that. Of course, first of all, there's the free method. Type a question, whatever you want. It pops into chat and I get to as many free questions as I possibly can. However, if you want to 100% guarantee that I get to your question, the way to do that's going to be the super chat option. Don't feel pressured. Don't feel obligated to do a super chat. It's just, way to help support me and the channel. All right, let me really quick go over. I'm just going to go over the Game of the Year nominees first. I'm not going to break down every single category because that would take forever. But if you guys want to, go into more in depth in some of the categories, feel free to drop questions or comments about that and we can go a little more in depth. So I'm sure you've all seen it, but just to give us some context around the discussion today, the 6 games that were nominated for the 2021 Game of the Year, and keep in mind, of course, this is the Jeff Keighley show, the big award show. There will be tons of awards from other outlets too, but this is kind of the big one. All right, so the 6 games are Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. Those are your 6 nominees for the Game of the Year. I think the 2 that stick out the most as being absent are Returnal and Forza Horizon 5. Lots of controversy around those 2 games in particular not being included. I'm sure there's going to be tons of questions about that, so we can dive into all of that here soon. And then one other thing, these are the most nominations at the Game Awards. So this is like the most categories, or in the case of Deathloop, which had 2 actors up for best performance. These are just the games that got the most nominations, the most categories, etc. So Deathloop leads the pack at number 9. Then it's Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart at 6 nominations. It Takes Two at 5. Psychonauts 2 at 5. Resident Evil Village at 4. Guardians of the Galaxy at 4. Returnal 3. Forza Horizon 5 3. Life is Strange True Colors 3. Arcana Bridge of Spirits 3. Far Cry 6 got 3. And The Artful Escape also got 3. So those are the games with the most nominations. All right, I think we're good. I think those are kind of like some highlights off the top. And let's start diving into your comments and questions, everybody. Let's get going. Let's get rocking. Timmer72299 leading it off with a 2 super chat. No question today. Just wanted to show my support. Thank you so much, Timmer. Thank you for always being so supportive. Thanks for being a part of every single chat. I don't know if you've ever even missed one. And keep rocking on Twitter, Timmer. Plastic Hearts Podcast here with a 5 super chat. Benji boy, how you feeling about Infinite's progression system? A lot of mixed views, mostly negative. Think 343 modifies it in the future. All right, thank you so much, Plastic Hearts. So I would say that I think Halo Infinite's multiplayer itself, like the gameplay, the game itself, love it. a couple issues still to iron out, and in particular, I do think that progression system needs some kind of hook. I don't want to go doom and gloom. I will tell you that it is starting to look like the game is already losing players. Right now, it's tracking in Europe primetime 40,000 players down from yesterday. It's kind of bleeding players actually really fast. So we need to see how this weekend goes. Typically, games in their first weekend, that's truly when they hit their peak. If this game, I would say if this game doesn't peak this weekend, like if this weekend's numbers are actually lower than Monday, I would call that worrying, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, we're going to go into some of the numbers and some of the data, I'm sure, in this chat more. And, the early numbers were incredible. And it could very well be that this game is going to blow up over the weekend, right? Like I said, I don't want to say doom and gloom, but I will say there are signs it's already losing players. My guess is that really comes down to progression. This game literally the only in-game progression right now, unless you're playing in ranked, is through the battle pass. And the battle pass itself, to me, just doesn't feel very rewarding. It's really slow. I think I've put in 20 matches on Halo Infinite, something right around there, and I'm only at level 2. Like, that is going to take so long to level up. So, they need some kind of hook, I think, to keep players. I think they either need that battle pass to feel a lot better. I don't know exactly how you do that. I don't know if you just make overall progression faster, or if you make like what you're doing in game count more towards your progression, right? Right now it's just like challenges, and I think that doesn't feel very good. So they need to do something around that. Something around progression needs to get tweaked, because right now I think they're not doing a good job of keeping players in that loop of feeling like, hey, I got to keep playing, I got to keep earning more, I got to keep, progressing. When so many other games do that well nowadays, that I think, I think if they want to keep players, period, they're going to have to improve that. So yeah, that's my biggest knock on the game right now, is progression just does not feel good. Again, I'm not necessarily saying for sure it just has to be the battle passes faster. Maybe they need to tweak some things in game, like where the game itself has a better progression system. And they've said they're looking at all of this. So I do expect improvements and fixes to all of this. But they could be in a scenario where they bleed players early on until they get that out there. Because, free-to-play games, as we know, that's like the main hook. Like the main way you get people coming back is to feel like you're earning and progressing and moving on, right? So yeah, they definitely need to tweak that. Also, I think the game just needs more maps, more variety of maps. A lot of the maps feel somewhat similar in terms of aesthetic. So there's definitely things they can improve on, but the good outweighs the bad, right? I know I'm pointing out some negative stuff here, but the best parts of Halo Infinite, I think, outweigh the bad parts. Like, I think the game looks great from an art direction perspective. It plays incredible. I think it's the best playing Halo, period. It feels really polished already. So, yeah, tons of good, but there are a few things, too, that they need to improve. And then Plastic Hearts here with another super chat, another 5. Thank you so much, Plastic Hearts. Call of Duty Vanguard just announced a free trial. How is it performing? Terribly. Is Halo eating everybody's lunch or what? Or just franchise fatigue? Okay, yeah, we can go into Call of Duty a little bit. Early numbers for Call of Duty now look disastrous. Outright disastrous. So we had talked on the last chat. This was, I believe, before digital numbers came out. And I had mentioned, someone was asking me, I don't remember exactly what, but they were asking about like how Call of Duty was looking. It might have even been JCat. But anyways, they were asking like, how's Call of Duty looking? And I was saying like the early signs, and at this point we had just had like physical charts. There had been UK physical charts and some Japan physical charts. I'd been saying, yeah, it doesn't look good. Like we need to see some digital data first before I go all in, but the early numbers are not looking great. We've gotten a lot more context about this. Now, again, we just have like a ton of data from the UK. We don't have it from some other markets still, right? We still need to see how this performs in the US, et cetera, et cetera. But out of the UK, this game was down an astronomical amount. I believe it was 40%, including digital. Okay, that is a stunning drop. You're talking stunning drop. Let me look at this. So if it would have just been 40% down physical, that would already be a giant red flag. But you could make the argument that, like, okay, maybe digital, like, maybe some stuff has shifted digital. And of course, once you hit a 40% decline, if this was just physical, you'd be like, it's definitely going to be down. Like, you're not going to see a 40% shift in digital year over year. But you'd say maybe it's like, maybe it's like 20% down. So it's not as catastrophic as it looks. But no, this includes digital. I mean, that's a disastrous number. So let me look at this. I just want to make sure that I'm correct. Yeah, 40% down. And what's interesting is physical was actually down less than digital. So physical was down 26%. Digital was down 44%. And this follows numbers that have come out of Spain, where the game is way down, Japan, where the game is way down. Basically, every market we've got data for so far, it's a big decline. The free trial is definitely them hitting the panic button. Like, there's no way around this. I'm not saying Vanguard itself is a bad game. Clearly, though, they were not able to attract players to this year's title. I had somebody ask me on Twitter, like, why I think that this is happening. And I actually think it's like a big, giant combination of things. I don't think you can point to exactly one thing, but I think it's multiple things. First of all, people are just sick of World War II. Like, I don't think you're going to see a big AAA World War II shooter now for quite some time. Because the last two big multiplayer AAA shooters that went to World War II, Battlefield 5 and now Vanguard, have been disastrous for their franchises. Okay, like outright terrible performances. Again, with Battlefield 5, is there probably other elements there too besides just World War II? I'm sure. And is there other elements to Vanguard as well? I'm sure. But what's one common thread between them? Both of them World War II. I think people are flat out sick of this setting. So I don't think you're going to see, like, in terms of the big AAA multiplayer shooters, single player and stuff like that, you might see some other stuff. But I don't think you're going to see either Call of Duty, Battlefield, anybody go back to this setting now for quite some time. So I think that's part of it. There was just a glut of World War II games that came out in a short period of time. There was Call of Duty World War II. There was the Wolfenstein games, which I know aren't multiplayer, but again, they were that World War II setting. You had Battlefield going there. Now you've got Vanguard again. Like, there was like so many World War II games in a short window. And even Battlefield 1, yes, it was World War 1, which is a different war, but it's, again, pretty close to that era. I think people are sick of it. So I think, going back to World War II was a big mistake. And then, you have to also factor in that Sledgehammer games are just never as big as Treyarch and Infinity Ward. They just don't carry the same pedigree. So then you factor that element in there as well. The Call of Duty fan base isn't as, like, behind Sledgehammer traditionally as they are Treyarch and Infinity Ward. And then you have all this stuff with Activision going on in Blizzard where people just don't feel good about the company because of all the disgusting things that are happening there. So you put all of this together and it's a recipe for a disaster. So yeah, I mean, Vanguard sales, there's just no way around it. It's looking really bad. Now, is it still going to be a giant game? Yes, because even Call of Duty, when it's massively declined, is still a monster, right? This was still the second biggest launch in the UK of the year, only behind FIFA. So, do I expect Call of Duty to still be number one in NPD? Yeah, like, even Call of Duty declining is still a juggernaut. But this is a huge wake-up call, okay? I don't think this impacts, and I think Warzone's an element here too. So I don't think that this means Call of Duty as a brand is doomed. I don't think that it means that next year's Call of Duty is going to be a bomb, because actually next year should be gigantic. It's the next Modern Warfare game. I think that game's going to have a lot more going for it. But yeah, there's no doubt. There's just no way to spin it. Call of Duty's looking really bad, and it's not a coincidence that they're slapping this free trial out there. So not looking good. Is it Halo's fault in particular? I'd say no, right? Because these numbers that we're talking about came out before Halo was even on the market. Halo has been really well received for the most part, but like I mentioned, it looks like Halo's even bleeding players already. And Battlefield also, to me, feels like it's not got a ton behind it. This is somewhat surprising. I don't know if any of this year's big giant FPS games are going to be like giant long-term successes. Which, who would have predicted that beforehand, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Halo is in the best spot of the three, to be honest with you. Campaign's still on the way. I expect Campaign to do really big numbers. And I think Halo Infinite is going to keep a high player base for many, many years to come, right? So I don't want to paint this as Halo's like a disaster. What I mean is, because I think it's doing really well, I don't know if any of these FPS games are going to be massive overperformers this year. So that's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. All right, I think Super Chats are cleared. They are cleared for now. Awesome. Thank you so much for those Super Chats, everyone. Let's start diving into some free questions. Samuel Tolbert here. What is up, Samuel? What is up, my dude? Hey, Benji. Hope you're doing well. I'm not doing well. But I appreciate it, Sam. I appreciate it. Just so much depression right now. You guys know that, though. This is me this time of year. But yeah, massively depressed. Hope you're doing well. Thoughts on Xbox Cloud Gaming launching today for consoles? It's big. So cloud gaming is now coming to the last gen systems. I think that this is smart. You know, some people are going to argue, does this eat into like why you need a Series X? Like, you know, do you need the new consoles if you can stream to the old ones and that kind of stuff? I think that's mostly overblown. Most people still want to own the newest hardware. They still want to play games natively. However, this is a pretty cool thing that's going to allow you know, the last gen consoles to still stream more, to get access to more games for longer. I think it's a good thing, right? I think it's really good. It supports Microsoft's messaging of getting games however you want, wherever you want, as long as it's the Xbox ecosystem. So I think it's important for them to keep that going, You know, most people want to play their games still not streaming. Streaming is growing. It's becoming a bigger thing. It's going to become a even bigger thing than it is now over the next like 10 years. But I still think dedicated hardware and installing the games locally and playing them the absolute best you can is still going to be a big deal for many gamers for many years. So I don't think this is one of those things that eats into adoption of new consoles at all. It's just a nice like bonus still if you are on older platforms and things like that. So it's good. I see it as nothing but a good thing. And again, it continues Microsoft's messaging, right? Microsoft's messaging period is just access your games however you want, wherever you want. So good. I see it as nothing but good, Sam. Red Dead Series saying, hi, Benji. What is up, Red Dead? Timmer, I did think of a question. Do you think Bobby Kotick will get the boot after the recent Wall Street Journal article? Well, he absolutely should. Like, there's zero debate about this. If anyone has read the new things that have come out, I don't think it surprises you. I think we've all known for probably many years that Bobby Kotick is a bad person. I've heard things behind the scenes, not in regards to like these types of allegations. I won't go into any detail, but I have heard how he's treated other people behind the scenes in very hateful and mean ways. So none of this is surprising. None of this is surprising. I think we've all known this. What's horrifying is the extent of this sorts of thing, where he's literally telling people he's going to kill them over the phone, and they're calling it as like, oh, he was like, you know, being hyperbole. It was over the top. Listen, if you call someone and leave a voicemail to a coworker, because he left the voicemail, it wasn't even like, this would be bad if it was just in normal conversation. It'd be bad. To call and then leave a voicemail, like you're going out of your way to leave this message saying I'm going to kill you. I don't know about you guys, but if I did that at my work, I would definitely be fired. Okay, there's like no question. If I called a coworker and left a voicemail saying I'm going to kill you, I would not be working there the next day. And that's just one of many, many things. So should he be fired? Abso-freaking-lutely. Will he be fired? That's a whole nother question. You have the board saying that they're going to stand beside him, which is just horrifying. I don't know. Timmer, I absolutely think he should. I think that these, like, I mean, again, I'm one of those people always that says, I believe both things. I believe you should always believe people that are making accusations because it's very important to believe them. And I also believe it's also very important to go through the proper channels and do a proper investigation, right? Both things, super important. Listen, when you have this many allegations, it's not like even one allegation. We're talking tons of allegations with evidence. Like, it's not up for debate. The man should be gone. But will he be? When you have that much wealth and that much power and you're that ingrained in the company like Bobby is, it's going to be tough. I hope they do, though. They need to get him out of there. They need to get him out of there. All right. Ulfric Stormcloak here with a question. This is a follow-up question from last week regarding where the next Fallout game could take place. Bethesda recently hired the head writer. Ooh, this is interesting. From the Fallout London mod. So it would be interesting if there's a Fallout game that takes place in England. That'd be very cool. We had this conversation in the last chat about if Fallout should go out of the U.S., or should it stay in the U.S. I'm still of the opinion that the core game, I like being in the U.S. because, like I said, it follows that U.S. 50s nostalgia type vibe for almost everything it does, in contrast with, the post-apocalyptic world around it. And not every country had that sort of vibe that 50s US is known for, where like all the messaging, right, was about how the world is perfect and everyone's so happy. And that's like why the Pip Boy is so iconic with the smile, but he's actually like killing people. Like, it just is so much of the identity, that setting as Fallout. It will be really, they're going to have to get really creative if they go outside of the US to still make it feel like Fallout in terms of how we know it. I'm still of the belief I would love to see the core game in the US, but in a different setting. However, the expansion's definitely outside of the US, so we can see, like what the rest of the world looks like. But again, I'm not opposed to it. So yeah, if they go to England, if they go to Russia, if they go to, there's a million places you could go, right? I wouldn't be opposed to it. It's not like I'd get this announcement and be like, oh, I'm disappointed. Not at all. They're going to have to get really creative about how they still make it feel like Fallout, but take place in other parts of the world. So, and not just feel like another generic post-apocalyptic game, right? Because that's like literally what sets Fallout apart, is that 50s vibe. So, they literally would have to get very creative to not be like, oh, this is just yet another post-apocalyptic game in a different like setting. So, I'm not opposed to it at all. And at the very least, the minimum, I want the expansions to go outside of the US, because at some point we do need to see the rest of the world in that universe. Justin Tanhill, how have you been enjoying Halo Infinite so far? Oh, we kind of went into this. I think it's the best multiplayer start for a Halo game, as long as 343 is willing to continue to provide more content and support for the game. That's exactly how I feel, Justin. We pointed out some of the negatives with Halo Infinite, but I think there's far more positives. I agree that this is like, it feels amazing. Like, it feels so good. They just, like you said, they got to get more content out. I am surprised, I will say, at how few maps there are at launch, considering how long this game's been in development, and how so many of them feel very similar to things we've already seen. Like, they're almost all set in either like that, like woodsy, forest type, vibe that you've seen from like the open world segments, or they're like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like almost like human, like, I don't know. It's hard for me to describe, but you'd know if you play the game. Like, they all feel very similar in terms of aesthetic. It's like basically two aesthetics and then, variations of it. I am surprised there's not more maps, and I am surprised they don't have more variety. So one thing I wonder is if they're holding some back till after the campaign. Now, they haven't said this, but I wonder if the campaign goes to a little bit more exotic places and they don't want to spoil that type of thing in the multiplayer being before. I don't know. But one thing I think will be very key and very important moving forward for Halo Infinite is a lot more maps, and also for those maps to feel a lot different than what we already have. So, like in terms of aesthetic. But the actual map design themselves, like the maps that are in it, I think I like every map. They all feel great. The gameplay feels great. I think the shooting feels incredible. So yeah, everything right now is good except for Battle Pass. They need to have more playlists. Like, there needs to be a Slayer-only playlist. I'm shocked this game doesn't have one yet. But again, they're calling this beta. Things will change. Improvements will happen. So yes, overall, I'm loving it. Like I said, I think I've put about 20 matches into it. And then, obviously, I put in more during the tech tests as well. But in the regular game, I think I've played about 20. Bigelow 25. Pretty sure they're already looking into it for Halo Infinite progression. Yes, they are. They said that. They are looking into progression. They got to do something. Brandon, hi Benji. How likely / unlikely do you think is Insomniac creating their own studio specifically for Marvel games? I'd say pretty unlikely. However, I do think that they're going to continue to make these Marvel games, especially if they keep being successful, right? Like Spider-Man 2, we already know will be gigantic. I guarantee you they're going to make Spider-Man 3. If Wolverine's a giant home run, you're definitely going to see another Wolverine game, or you're going to see, an X-Men game with him. Like, Insomniac, trust me, they're going to keep doing Marvel. But they also, I think, want to do other things as well, right? We've got Ratchet and Clank that they're making. I think they're probably going to want to do new IPs. They're also going to want to experiment maybe with Resistance or something. You never know. I'm not saying I have info on that, but I guarantee they want to do stuff besides Marvel as well. So they don't want to become a Marvel-only studio. But I also can't really see them creating a spin-off studio that's Marvel games. I just think that they're going to do everything. Like Insomniac, we've talked about before, they're one of those studios that can really juggle multiple games, multiple projects. They're so good at that. So I think they'll keep it all under the Insomniac umbrella. But yeah, there's no way they're abandoning Marvel anytime soon. Anytime soon. JCat saying hi. What is up, JCat? Elias Collins saying Bluepoint is making Bloodborne. All other Sony studios and partners saying directly we are working on new IP, but Bluepoint is the only one saying new content. I think the rumor is true. And Special Nick saying an Xbox Era podcast from Software after Elden Ring is making a PlayStation exclusive. Do you think Sony has locked 2 Souls games for the next couple of years? And my last question, Spider-Man is huge. Sony's saying this, do you think there will be a Spider-Man game outside the PlayStation system anytime soon? No. So to answer the last one, will there be a Spider-Man game outside of PlayStation anytime soon? No chance. No way, no how. Sony's going to keep that locked down. First of all, Insomniac's the one developing Spider-Man, so obviously Insomniac wouldn't make a multi-platform game. And then second of all, they don't, own that Spider-Man IP. They actually do have movie rights, but not in games. Spider-Man can go outside of PlayStation in games, but I think that Sony will literally pay whatever it takes to make Spider-Man continue to be associated with PlayStation. Now, will he show up in other games that are multi-platform that are on other systems? I'm not going to deny that, but like the core Spider-Man game, like it's fully focused on Spider-Man, that ain't ever leaving PlayStation, and if it does, it's many, many years in the future. They're going to pay whatever it takes to keep him there. That's like, it's become a system seller, like there's no doubt Spider-Man's moved consoles, and then also it's sold multiple tens of millions of units on their platform. So it's moving consoles, and it's moving giant amounts of software. He ain't ever leaving PlayStation, or if so, it's many years down the line. Now, in regards to Bluepoint and Bloodborne, I have no idea. I have literally zero inside info on this. I've talked to you guys about this before. There are studios that I do know people at the studios and talk to people at the studios. Bluepoint is not one of them. I don't know anyone at Bluepoint. So I have zero inside information when it comes to Bluepoint. So what they're up to, I have no idea. We know that they're making a new IP. I truly do believe it's a new IP. A lot of people are theorizing. Does that mean like Bloodborne? No, I truly think they're making a new IP. But could they be making a new IP and a Bloodborne remaster? I actually think that's possible. So I don't want to shoot down Bloodborne coming from Bluepoint in some way. Very well could be true. But I also believe they are making a true new IP as well. I do think so. Split End's pointing out that Call of Duty does free weekends pretty regularly. For sure. No doubt. That being said, there's also, no doubt that Vanguard is a complete bomb by the franchise standards. So, Split End, you're totally right. Totally right. But they basically have to do anything they can to get those numbers up. Like anything they can. 40% drop in just the UK. And people will be like, that's one country. Well, the UK is like part of the backbone of Call of Duty. It's a huge market for Call of Duty. A huge one. And there's no reason for me to believe the US would be any different in this particular case. So yeah, that Vanguard's not looking good. Again, I'm not talking about pure quality of the game. Not at all. So if people are loving Vanguard and enjoying it, not talking about that. I'm talking about sales numbers. Fidel Al-Turki, PlayStation changed its banner on all its social media pages. Benji, do you think it's hinting at a possible PlayStation experience in December 2021, or is that unlikely? Ooh, that's a great question, Fidel. I haven't looked at that. I actually didn't know they did this. I think Sony needs to come out with some news soon, whether that's the Game Awards or PlayStation Experience or whatever. I kind of feel bad. I've even talked about this on Twitter. I haven't tweeted much about PlayStation lately because there's like no news. Like there's no PlayStation news right now. And this isn't abnormal of Sony. Sony's been kind of doing this generation. They do like in the last year or two, they'll do like big drops and then go like many months of being quiet. And I feel bad because it leaves big gaps where I'm not tweeting about Sony much because there's just not a lot to tweet about. Like I cover Sony. I love Sony whenever there's big news. Literally, like probably two of my most anticipated games, period, that are announced right now are PlayStation exclusives. Like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok are literally 10 out of 10 hype for me. But there's just not any news out of them right now. So I would love to see a PlayStation experience in December. I think they need something news-wise somewhat soon. Granted, they just had a blowout a few months ago where they announced, big projects and all kinds of stuff. So, it's not like Sony doesn't have anything coming in the pipeline. There's tons of stuff. It's just like in the last, 2 months or so, they haven't really said all that much. So I think so. I think you really need to be communicating with your fan base nowadays at least once a quarter, right? Like once every 3 months or so. I think you need to at least be having some big news drops. Doesn't mean you need to have an E3 level show every 3 months, but I think you need something big, nowadays because so much of discussion online is moving that way. So many people are connected to the internet and talking. Whether you're Sony, Xbox, Nintendo, I think you need some sort of big news messaging at least once a quarter. So I hope so. I hope we see something from them in December. Could even be at the Game Awards, right? I'm not saying Sony needs to go out and have their own giant experience. That'd be amazing. But at the very least, show something very cool at the Game Awards, right? So I hope so, Fidel. I think we will hear something out of Sony before the year's over. I really do think so. Sounds PP7. What do you make of Microsoft concluding their backwards compatibility program? Which of the new games are you excited to revisit with the new improvements, and what's next for their team of engineers? Yeah, this is it was a huge drop. It was like over 70 games, but they did say this is the last one, and they basically said that the reason is because like either just technological issues or licensing issues. Like there's not really any other games they can bring forward now. Like this is basically as far as they can get. It's been an amazing program, an amazing run. There are so many backwards compatible games now across the Xbox ecosystem, so it's very impressive what they've done. Obviously, there's still some holes and some exceptions for sure, but it's impressive, across 3 series of consoles, right? The original Xbox, the 360, and the Xbox One, that there's so much backwards compatible. So, what they're going to do next, I don't know. They did say that team is sticking together, so they're going to do more projects together. What that's going to be, who knows? Tons of talent there, clearly. I'm not sure. Not sure what's next from Silence. And in terms of backwards compatible, what am I going to play? I've talked about this before. I'm not a huge retro gamer personally. I don't go back and play many games unless they get like remasters or such. I'm one of those guys that's kind of always playing what's next. However, I think Fable got an FPS boost. I'd like to revisit that. If that's true, I think Fable Anniversary maybe is at 60 FPS now. I could be wrong here, but I think they mentioned that. That would be one. If Fable is, I'd like to go back and play Fable again. Tragic. We need more games like Deathloop in 12 minutes, loopy games. I always love any piece of media that plays with time. Love it. I don't know why, but I like that sort of stuff. So I'm with you. Tragic. Anything that has to do with time, that can go off the rails and get crazy and bad. But I do like that stuff. So I'm with you. I'm always down for that. I think we had some super chats. Let me hit some super chats. We do. We have multiple super chats. Timmer72299 with a 5 super chat. What Xbox IP do you think would be perfect? Ooh, for an MMO by ZeniMax Online Studios. Plus, do you think we will get Elder Scrolls 6 earlier than expected? Great questions, Timmer. And a really fun one. So what IP would be perfect for an MMO? I honestly think out of all of Xbox's IP, right? We're not talking about the games that are already with Bethesda, but the Xbox-owned IP, Halo. A Halo MMO could be very cool. They even toyed with it before. Like there was a period of time internally where there was even a project that was like in the works, never released, never came out, never got like, you know, it got decently into development, but it was never a game that was like about to come out. The Halo universe would work so well for an MMO. It's sci-fi, you can go to other planets, like there's just so much you could do there and it not play like normal Halo, right? Like it doesn't have to be this hardcore first-person shooter. In fact, I think you should make it third person if you did a Halo MMO and maybe don't play a Spartan, someone totally different. So I think Halo for sure would be perfect for an MMO out of any IP that they own. Like to me, it's no question, Halo. Whether they'll ever do a Halo MMO, I don't know. I do think they need to do some sort of Halo RPG, though. Like some sort. Even if it's not an MMO, if you did like a Mass Effect style game. Something in that universe RPG. There's just too much there to not mind. And do I think we'll get Elder Scrolls 6 earlier than expected? My expectation for Elder Scrolls 6 is 2025. That's what I think. And I don't think it's going to be before then, no. Because Starfield's 2022. I think late 2025, 3 years afterwards, is going to be when that game launches. Because they've said, you know, even in this recent Todd Howard interview, he said in general it takes them around 4 years or a little bit longer to make a game. And he did multiple times state that they are doing work on Elder Scrolls 6. Obviously, the bulk of that team and the bulk of everyone at Bethesda is on Starfield. But he said multiple times, like, there is work being done on Elder Scrolls. Clearly, though, that's pre-production, right? It's not that this game is, like, fully in full-scale production. But if they knock out, you know, a solid 2 years or so of pre-production work, you know, then you can kind of go all in on making that game almost right after Starfield. You'll still want a team there to work on Starfield, to work on expansions, to work on DLC, improving the game, etc. But a ton of your resources can then go directly into Elder Scrolls because all the pre-production work, hopefully by then, is done. And a big part of games, honestly, is pre-production. That takes usually at least a year. So if that's already done and you can just go straight to all in on Elder Scrolls, I think they could do it 3 years after Starfield, but I just can't see it earlier than that. Like, it'd be amazing if this game could be out by 2024, but I don't think so. I think 2025. All right. Joseki here. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is my game of the year. Best JRPG in years, you playing it. Joseki, it's on the way. So when I went to pre-order it, which is crazy, it was sold out. Like I waited too long to pre-order the game, and I went to pre-order it, and it was sold out where I went to pre-order it, and then it did come back in, and I pre-ordered the one that comes with the Steelbook, but it was back-ordered. So I'm still waiting on mine to get to me. But yes, I'm excited to play it, Joseki. It's actually going to be my first ever mainline Shin Megami Tensei game. I've played the Persona games, of course, but as we've discussed, and as everyone knows, even though there's some overlap there in themes and stuff, Persona is very different than Shin Megami Tensei. I've never played a normal, regular one of those, so this will be my first. I'm really excited for it, and I'm hearing it's amazing. So literally as soon as that gets to me, I'm going to start it. But I got to wait for it. Plastic Arts Podcast here with a 5, which, by the way, to piggyback on this, that game did great in the UK. Great in the UK, so that's a good early sign. Better than Bravely Default 2, and I think it was even higher than Tales of Arise. So that is a fantastic start for that game, it looks like. At least in the UK, right? Plastic Hearts Podcast here with a 5. Have you tried Grand Theft Auto Definitive? No. I decided to not buy it. What you think of all the posts regarding performance/bugs? Many claim this was quick and dirty re-release. It sure seems like it. I don't know if anyone has seen like the stuff that Digital Foundry's been talking about or some of the tweets that are going online. Looks like this was done, yeah, very cheap. Very cheap. Clearly they did not put enough resources behind this. So I was going to buy this, then I heard it's a disaster, and there is no chance I buy this game now. Maybe if it gets like radically rehauled, maybe I would buy it down the line, but I actually don't think that's going to happen. Considering how little resources it seems they poured into this in the first place, it's hard for me to believe they're going to go back and put in tons more to fix it. Is there going to be some patches? Yeah. Are they going to do some improvements? Yeah, but I don't see this like going from a terrible remaster to just suddenly being amazing. Like I think that ship sailed. So yeah, not good, not good. And I think it's going to definitely affect its sales. Like this game should have been a shoo-in, like a lock to sell tens, plural, tens of millions of units lifetime, considering how many platforms it's on and how big the Grand Theft Auto brand is. I do not expect that anymore, to be honest. Now, is this going to get maybe... I mean, it's going to sell a lot, but it's not going to sell near what it could have been. Nowhere near. No way. The word of mouth is way too bad. Like, it's not like... You see some games where it's like there's some online word of mouth that's not great. I mean, this is like universally being panned. So, no. Nope, that's going to hurt it bad. Really bad. Kelligrim, what is up? Kelligrim's in the chat with a 20. Dude, thank you so much. You don't need to be near that kind, but thank you, Kelligrim. That's ridiculous. Sup, Benji? Talking about new IPs and with our convo yesterday, when do you think we see a new first-party Nintendo IP, if ever? Do you think they're getting too comfortable relying on the IPs they have? Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Kelligrim. They do some... Like, keep in mind, ARMS was a new IP, and they've partnered with other studios. I see JCat kind of pointing out that Astral Chain counts. It definitely does. That is developed, though, by Platinum, and I think that Kelligrim's talking about, like, internal Nintendo, games. Like, that's made directly by them. We had ARMS this generation so far on Switch, and we had Ring Fit Adventure. So they've done some. But I think you're talking about Kelligrim like something that's going to be like as big, right, as like Donkey Kong or Mario or, something like very, very big. I don't think ARMS ever looked like it was going to be huge. Splatoon was. But that was quite a few years ago now, right? Splatoon was quite a few years. So they'll definitely do a new IP. When do I expect to see one? It could be potentially not until next generation. It depends on how much longer Switch goes. I think you'll definitely see some smaller experimental new IP stuff from Nintendo still on the Switch, but before they go all in on like a huge new IP, kind of like how Splatoon was, that they might save that for the next Switch. Just because the Switch is so deep in its life cycle now, right? Like it's been around for so many years. They might kind of hold off on going all in on a big new IP until next gen. So I think you definitely will see one from them. But it could be a few more years still. Keep in mind, they've got like so many big sequels in the pipeline right now, like Metroid Prime 4, Splatoon 3. I'm sure there's got to be another Mario game in development. Breath of the Wild 2. Like they have so many big sequels on the way. So many resources are tied up into that. I mean, the new Kirby game. So probably next gen. Probably next gen's when you see the next big new first party game, like new IP from them. And Xenoblade, right? We know there's another Xenoblade. So you get what I'm saying. Like so many of their teams are on sequel work right now. But they will. They will. They'll definitely do another big one. Just could be a few more years. Big Nabs here with a 2 super chat. Elder Scrolls 6 will be an end of gen game like The Last of Us on PS3. It'd be pretty close because if I'm expecting this in 2025... And I think there's a good chance. Could slip to 2026, but I do think there's a good chance this is 2025. I mean, that would be pretty deep into the life cycle, right? It would be not the last year, but it'd be deep because these consoles came out last year. That'd be 5 years into the generation. So it'd be deep into the gen. If it slips to 2026, then it truly will be close to an end of cycle, but not quite. I think this generation is going to go very long We've talked about that before. I think the pandemic is going to push this generation to being at least another year to 2 years longer than it would have been. So it's going to be late in gen, yeah. It's definitely not going to be an early gen game. No doubt. Big Nabs, no doubt. This game does not come out before 2025, in my opinion. At the soonest. No chance before that. I cannot see it being 2024. It'd be amazing, but I can't see it. All right, Super Chats are cleared for now. Thank you so much for all the Super Chats, everyone. Thank you so much. So much. All right, back to some free questions. I'm surprised we haven't got more Game Awards stuff. I thought that was going to be a hot button topic considering how much it's blowing up on Twitter. Twitter, it has turned into a drama. What is up, Diagazo saying hello. Joel saying, what up, Benji? Thanks for doing this. Joel, I'm so happy to do this. These chats are literally my favorite thing. Like, I love doing them. Michael Yu, do you know why Game Awards doesn't take place in January so that all games during the year can be counted? I actually do think it should be, Michael Yu. Now, I think the reason Jeff does it in December is because I think December is probably better for eyeballs. So keep in mind, like, even with movie studios, like, it's kind of known if you put a movie in January, you don't have a lot of confidence or faith in it. Like, it's kind of the dumping ground for movies. Because the thing is in January, like, everything is slow. At least in, like, the U.S. and stuff. You know, it's in the middle of winter. You're coming right off the holidays. So everyone's kind of just gotten, like, a ton of energy out there. It's just not a big month for that kind of stuff. Like, you even don't see tons of games in January. February, you do. February, you start to see it really pick up. And there are some games in January. For example, that Pokemon Arceus, if that's how you pronounce it, it's going to be January. But traditionally, like, you know, if you just look at many, many years, January is also not a huge month for game releases. It's just not a great month for media. So I think he likes to put it in December because that's when eyeballs are on, everyone's fired up, everyone's in holidays mode, everyone's just excited. So I think that's why he does it, but I do agree. I think it'd be better to do it in January just because, like, in terms of, like, good for the awards themselves, not necessarily viewership, because you would still give media longer to, you know, sit on some of these games that come in hot right at the very end. You also see games like Halo, which won't be even, you know, it's not even up for awards. I'm not saying it would win awards, but it can't even get nominated, and it's going to be one of the biggest games of the year, regardless if it's like, you know, a 90s Metacritic or not. So I think it'd be better for the awards themselves to go in January, but I think that's why he does. I think he does in December for eyeballs and visibility. I just think it would do better metrics in December than January. Sean Macias, Darby McDevitt, who was the lead writer on the previous Assassin's Creed games, recently returned to Ubisoft to work on Assassin's Creed Infinity. Do you think this is a good sign for Infinity? Well, I hope so. I've talked many times on this chat. I'm very worried about the direction of Ubisoft. Very worried. I don't know if you guys saw this, but apparently Beyond Good and Evil 2 is about to be canceled any day. Like, the staff's just waiting for them to cancel that game. I mean, again, I'm not saying that Ubisoft can't put out great games anymore because I know they have the talent to. Whenever I say I'm very worried about Ubisoft, I'm not talking about the staff. I know people that work at Ubisoft. I know there's a ton of talented people there, tons of passion. I'm worried about, like, their business decisions, what's coming from the top down, going so in on free-to-play, so in on games as a service. Again, is there reasons to pursue this stuff? Yes. Like, I wouldn't be upset at Ubisoft if they're like, hey, we're going to do a free-to-play game. We're going to ride that out for a little bit, see how it does. You know, then after that, you know, if it's a big success, we're going to try another. Or if it fails, but we think we have some great ideas, we're going to try another. But, like, already having, like, 3 or 4 announced free-to-play games, obviously more in the works. Obviously, they're getting away from doing their big single-player stuff. Infinity is going to be single player, but it's also not going to be how we think normally of Assassin's Creed. We need to see how it is. I'm just very worried about that company. Very worried about that company. So I hope it's great. I hope it's great. I hope it's a huge success. But right now I'm in a mode where anything with Ubisoft, I'm very cautious. Tragic. Returnal, The Medium, Forza Horizon 5, missing games. Well, I definitely agree with you on Returnal and Forza Horizon 5. Those are my two favorite games of the year. So let's get into the discussion around snubbing and that kind of thing, because it's up here now. All right. Do I personally think Forza Horizon 5 should have been nominated for Game of the Year? To me, and again, with Game of the Year, there's always going to be a personal factor to this. So that's why you're not seeing me go crazy on Twitter, right? Some people are blowing up on Twitter over Forza Horizon 5 not being included. You know, I've made my statement and I stand by it. All I said was it's not surprising Forza Horizon 5 wasn't on there. I've been telling everyone that asked me it's not going to get nominated. I knew that game was not going to get nominated. But I absolutely think it's good enough that it should have been. Like, to me, there's no doubt. So, you know, I publicly say that. It is my game of the year. It passed Returnal. Returnal is my runner-up. Number one for me is Forza Horizon 5. I am well aware that is a personal-only decision, and many people feel differently. So that's why I'm not like blowing up about it. I'm not going around like, oh my gosh, this is rigged. This is ridiculous. I just said, yeah, Forza got snubbed like it did. It should have been on there. But, you know, same I feel for Returnal. I really feel like it should have been on there. I'll tell you what, the biggest surprise for me out of all of this, no game surprised me being on that list but Resident Evil. I am shocked that game got nominated for Game of the Year. You guys know me. I love horror. I was incredibly hyped for Village. I actually think Village is... I thought personally that Village was a bit disappointing. I think it's worse than Resident Evil 7. And being one of the 6 best games of the year... Again, once you get into Game of the Year, it gets so murky because everyone feels different. There are people legitimately that think that that's their Game of the Year. But it is only at an 83 and 84 Metacritic. I don't know. That's a shocker to me that got on the list. Like a shocker. Shocker. I do believe that a Forza Horizon 5, I do believe it being a racing game is the reason it's not on that list. Like, I truly believe that. I don't think it's, intentional, right? So whenever I said, because one thing I said it feels like genre gatekeeping, and I stand by that. I don't mean that as in media themselves are going out of their way to be like, we can't nominate a racing game. I don't believe that conversation is going on at all. I don't think anyone's out there at a media spot being like, this is a racing game, we will take a stand and not nominate it. I don't believe that's true at all. What I do believe though is that within media, it's a genre that does not appeal in the same way as action-adventure third-person games do. Can other genres win and be nominated? No doubt. We've seen Overwatch win Game of the Year. We've seen other ones do it. But again, Overwatch is a giant shooter, right? A shooter is a huge genre. Racing games, and you've seen some people be like, if this was Gran Turismo, it would be nominated. I actually don't think so. I think literally it's impossible for a racing game to get nominated for Game of the Year. Too many media members have no interest in the genre, and by and large, it cannot be debated. If you look at the nominees every year, primarily, they follow a third-person, narrative-driven type of vibe. Now, are there other genres? Yes. Is there other things that can win? Yes. Is it locked in stone? No. But if you look at the nominees this year, I think it was something like 4 of the 6 are also nominated for Best Action Adventure. That tends to be what gets nominated. So, it is what it is. There's lots of reasons for that. I think Forza Horizon 5 is a good enough game. It should have been nominated. I think it being a racing game is literally the reason it's not nominated. I don't think it's a grand conspiracy why it's not nominated, but I saw this coming from a mile away. You can ask people that I had conversations with. They'll all tell you, I told all of them, it ain't going to get nominated. There's no chance it gets Game of the Year nomination. So, and in regards to Returnal, I think it should have been on there too. Returnal to me, though, is actually less egregious, and I made this tweet. I was like, I actually think it's less egregious Returnal's on there, not there, just because, like, it does feel weird that the number one reviewed game's not on the list, right? And again, should Metacritic by itself carry all the weight? No. Again, you're not seeing me freak out about this, but put it this way, and y'all know this. If you go to any other genre, just about, but racing, would the number one highest reviewed game on Metacritic likely, number one, not talking 2, not talking 3, not talking 4, number one, if you took that Metacritic score in this year and you put that on an action adventure game, y'all know it would have got nominated for Game of the Year. We all know this. Every one of us knows this. It's a racing game. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen for a racing game. All right, Stealth 40K. What is up, Stealth? Actually made it at the start of the stream this time. Dude, great to see you, Stealth. Great to see you, my man. Thank you so much for being in the stream. Hamish Lee Ford. Thoughts on Forza Horizon 5 not being at Game of the Year. I think this is clearly being biased against genres. I agree, it is. It has more content than all the nominees combined and more players. It is. It is biased against the genre. But again, a lot of biases are subconscious. These are just facts. I don't think media are out there purposefully not putting on this because it's a racer. You know, and you're seeing some people claim that. It's like, it's because like they're consciously not putting it on there. I don't agree with that, man. I just think that most people, that they just don't put a racing game up. Now, I do think it's a bias, but I think it's a subconscious bias. Like they're not aware that that's why they're not putting it on there. Afropunk. How can Returnal be nominated for Best Direction but not Game of the Year? I'm with you. I think Returnal should have been. It's my number 2 Game of the Year. Like Returnal was literally my Game of the Year until Forza Horizon 5. So I agree with you. I think it should have been on there too, but you know, it is what it is. I'm not as upset over that one, to be honest with you. Mr. Gameplay, a progression is poor. Astonishing they thought this was a good idea. Yeah, in regards to Halo, it is. I'm shocked that they shipped the game like that, to be honest with you, but it is what it is. They need to fix it, though. Stealth says that Indie, Game of the Year, and RPG are probably the most egregious. Stealth's way more in the RPG space than I am. I think the 2 frontrunners, though, were Tales of Arise and Shin Megami Tensei 5. So I think both those being in there, I mean, one of those 2 is going to win, and it would have won no matter what got nominated, in my opinion. So I don't know about the full list. Again, you'd be better at that than me, Stealth, because you're such an RPG person. But at least like one of the 2 that's like, I mean, literally it's going to be one of those games. Nothing's beating one of those. It's going to be Tales of Arise or Shin Megami Tensei 5. So at least the winners are locked. Indie, though, I agree. Indie was bad. There was a lot of great missing games on Indie. And everyone's making a big deal about 12 Minutes, too, right? About 12 Minutes getting nominated for Best Debut Indie Game, I think. Yeah, it shouldn't have been nominated. Shouldn't have been. King of the Drybone says, I've played 18 hours and I'm only level 5. Yeah, it's like making leveling up in Halo Infinite. If you guys haven't played it, like the main way you level up, you get some XP for every match, but it's like a tiny amount. The main way to level up is you have to do challenges, and these challenges are like so specific. It's like you must do this thing in this game mode, or like you must kill this person in this certain way. It makes progression a crawl. Like, it will take so long to max this battle pass. It's unbelievable. So that was a bad idea. I'm shocked that they shipped it that way. Shocked. JCat, your discussion about Forza Horizon 5 for Game of the Year. It's never the highest rated games that are nominated. That's not true. But I get what you're saying. Are there exceptions? Yes, always. In 2019, Fire Emblem got an 89 and was snubbed, but Death Stranding was nominated with an 82. Well, JCat, I would agree with you that Fire Emblem should have been nominated. So in that case, I would say that Fire Emblem was a snub. That game should have been nominated. So it actually lines up with my critique about Forza Horizon 5. However, what makes it a little different is that Forza Horizon 5 being a racing game. I do think that's the biggest issue. But I mean, yeah, Fire Emblem was a total snub. However, it is a fact that most of the Game of the Year nominees are the highest reviewed games. Not universally, right? And that's why I always say, like, people want everything to be black and white. It drives me nuts. And I'm not saying you in specifically here, JK. I'm saying in general, like, everything's black and white. It's like, you must be fully this or fully that. There's nothing in between. It's not true. By and large, are the best reviewed games mostly the ones that are getting nominated. Yeah, right? It's the Red Dead Redemptions. It's the God of Wars. It's the Horizon Zero Dawns, which was almost a 90 Metacritic, right? That was an 89. You can go down the list. It's the Overwatches that got super high reviews. It's the Sekiros. Like, it's the Breath of the Wilds. Like, the vast bulk of the games that got the nominations are those highest reviewed games. Will there be exceptions to that? For sure. And in that case, Fire Emblem is definitely a snub. I still think that's the best Switch game that's ever been made. I do. I think it's the best Switch game. But yeah, I mean, again, what makes Forza so egregious is it's number one. It was a huge hit. Like, this game's giant. It should have been nominated. I just don't see the argument around it not being nominated. I honestly don't. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I'm not going to freak out. But, like, I don't see why it shouldn't be nominated for Game of the Year. Down at Destiny. Halo feels like a tired franchise. I disagree. I disagree with that. But I will say that I think, and I don't know this, we'll have to see some data. I do think Halo Infinite is probably right now attracting an older audience. I saw someone describe Halo as a boomer shooter, and it cracked me up because it is in a lot of ways true. Like, it doesn't have the design ethos of a lot of modern types of shooters, right? Where they're Twitch shooters. It's all about, like, Twitch instant reactions. It's about, that type of stuff, like a cartoony-ish look, even when you look at stuff like Fortnite or Battle Royale. Like, it doesn't follow a lot of what I think the younger demographics play. So I have a feeling, and I don't know this for sure, but I have a feeling that the bulk of Halo players are older. I don't think it feels tired, though, because it's been, like, many years since the last Halo. Like, it's been years. Longest gap ever for a Halo game. And I think they did make some changes with Infinite, so I do disagree with that down at Destiny, but, everyone's got their own opinions. Logan Hardy. Benji, do you think Sony have unannounced games for 2022? Maybe one. I mean, next year is so stacked for Sony. It's nuts. They've got Gran Turismo 7, God of War Ragnarok, and Horizon Forbidden West, like, locked, that are giant games. I would say, Logan, if so, it's one. If we're talking big. Will there be, like, smaller games, like a Kena style game, right? Where it's like partnering with someone else, a smaller project? I think that's almost guaranteed. But, like, a big giant, PlayStation Studios first party game, at best one. Because you already have 3 huge games. Like, and we're not counting Final Fantasy 16 and stuff like this. I think the question you're asking is primarily, like, Sony Studios. I don't think so. And if so, it's one. Maybe that Last of Us remake. We don't know how far along that thing is. Maybe something like that. But I can't see, like, some giant God of War level brand new, like, sequel or new IP that's not announced that's next year. That I can't see. Especially because Sony likes a long build-up. Like, if you look at their marketing strategy, Sony likes, for their biggest games, the big, giant first-party games, they like actually a long build-up. Usually. Are there exceptions? Sure, but usually they like to announce those games like a solid minimum of a year before, sometimes 2 or even more years before. So David Rodriguez, I think it's because Game of the Year isn't necessarily the best quality game, but the crowd pleaser. I think it's mostly a certain type of game, actually. Which you see the same thing in movies. There's a reason that there is literally a phrase that is well known called Oscar bait. With media, part of your job in media, you're looking for things that kind of like elevate experiences and things like that, right? It's like what you think of as the best. And I think there is a belief in media that these like story heavy games, and not always, right? There's tons of games that are nominated that aren't story heavy. But I think there is a belief that these are the types of games that like elevate the medium, right? And I don't think a racing game will ever qualify for that. And it's not like it's an anti-Forza thing. Like I said, I don't think you will ever see Gran Turismo nominated. I don't think you'll ever see Mario Kart nominated. I truly think it's impossible for the racing genre to get nominated for Game of the Year. I don't think it's possible. Yeah, JCat here, kind of saying what I did earlier. It's because December is the peak advertising period. Exactly. So that's when the Game Awards can make the most money. Yep. That's when there's the most eyeballs. That's just, it's way better than January. Down Up Destiny. It Takes Two deserves the Game of the Year nomination. Its level design was incredible. Yeah, I think it probably does. I haven't played it, but I've heard it's amazing. The one that sticks out to me is Resident Evil. I don't see how Resident Evil got nominated. I'm very, very surprised by that. Very surprised by that. Like, not even on just a personal level, even a critical level. I'm very surprised Village got nominated. That's a shocker. Where are we at? Hour and 6 minutes? Yeah. Stealth makes a great point. Every year, the Keeley Awards have issues. Games are snubbed, exactly. This year, I can think of 7 to 8 that were snubbed across the board. Completely agree, Stealth. That's why you're not seeing me do meltdowns. There's games that are going to get snubbed. It's just, there's no way around it. Especially when you only have 6 nominees. I guess you could make the argument maybe they should put the nominees up a little more for Game of the Year. 6 is a lot. Could you make the argument, should they do 8? I don't know. That once you start to get up to 8, that's a lot of options. I don't know. I don't know if I would do 8 nominees. I don't know. Maybe could you make the argument that would result in less snubs, so maybe less people getting angry over the nominees? Possible, but I don't know. That once you go up to 8, you might start splitting the votes so much in media that it gets a little weird. But yeah, I mean, when you only have a certain amount of nominees, you're always going to have games be snubbed. There's just no way around it. I think I literally talked about on one of the chats not that long ago. I said when the nominees come out, there's going to be some salt because, there's only so many spots. Ulfric. Bethesda mentioned they're committed to single-player games, which I think is a good thing, but it would have been nice to be able to have a co-op mode for the next Elder Scrolls. It might, Ulfric. So to be clear, what Todd Howard said is that like their games from Bethesda Game Studios will always be focused on single-player because that's like the experiences that they create. Like that's what they're best at, which I agree with. But he said that doesn't mean that they're not opposed to like experimenting and still doing multiplayer stuff in the future. It's just their focus is single player. I would not rule out co-op in the next Elder Scrolls. Is it going to be the whole game you can play co-op all the way through? Probably unlikely, I would say. But could there be some sort of co-op mode additionally on that? Going through dungeons or something, or who knows, right? Who knows? I would not rule that out. He did not say they will never do multiplayer. He just said we're focused on the big single player RPGs getting lost in our worlds, but who knows? We might experiment with multiplayer. So don't rule it out. I would say don't rule it out. Yeah, we can talk about this too, because we talked about it last week. I've told you all this, and more data is coming out. And I told you all this last week. Hammersley Ford. Christopher Dring said Call of Duty Vanguard sales were 90% digital on Xbox, related to last week's Xbox digital physical ratio talk. Exactly. As I mentioned last week, and we won't go super in depth on this because we already hashed this out last week, Xbox by ratio per platform on many games is selling a higher digital share, so that skews physical only charts. To be clear, as I mentioned then, PlayStation is still selling more of these games. It doesn't mean that just because Xbox has a higher digital ratio, oh, that means Xbox is selling more, right? PlayStation's not selling more of these games. That's not true at all. PlayStation is still selling more. But you literally saw the shift, right? And this is why I don't cover many physical only charts anymore, because they don't paint the full picture. PlayStation went, so physical only charts. PlayStation sold 70% of all copies of Call of Duty Vanguard. Once digital got added in for both, that went from 70% down to 57%. That is a gigantic difference, right? Again, PlayStation still sold more units. Like, PlayStation's still the one selling more games than Xbox. That's true, and it's probably going to always be true. But the gap isn't what it looks like strictly with physical. You saw the exact same thing with Far Cry 6, right? In general, Xbox just has a higher digital ratio. I'm telling you guys this. But, I think most people understand it. Some people don't want to believe it, but like, the data's there and it's been there for many years. I'm not basing this opinion off of just these last 2 weeks of UK charts. I mean, y'all, I've been in the sales community forever. I've seen so much NDA data. It's unreal over the years. Xbox in general, not always, has a higher digital ratio. I think we had a super chat. Let me see. We do have a super chat. Highlander here with a 10. Hey, Benji, hope your day gets better. I appreciate the kind words. It probably won't, though. I probably won't be better until about March of next year. Phil Spencer said Elder Scrolls 6 will be Xbox and PC exclusive. Will he have to do this for every game from Bethesda? Probably yes. How long will he have to keep doing this? Probably forever. Probably forever. Yeah, I mean, people don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe it with Starfield either. But, I mean, he's probably going to have to keep doing this for basically every game. Maybe after Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield are both exclusive, people will start to believe it. But, yeah, I don't know. Oh, apparently somebody was being mean in chat. It's okay. I read mean messages literally every day. All day, every day. Oh, man. That's something people don't take into account. Like, once you, like, have somewhat of a following, and there's way more nice comments than mean comments, but, like, dude, that's all I read all day, every day. You have to have a strong mental capacity to be a public figure, because you will just read all day, every day about how you suck. Every day of your life. Every day. But anyways, yeah, will Phil ever, like, stop having to explain Bethesda? Maybe after Elder Scrolls 6. Best case scenario after Elder Scrolls 6, but I think even then people will still drill him over it. It's going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time for people to, accept that that's the way it's going to be. And especially, I would say, because Bethesda still does release some stuff multi-platform, right? Like, you saw Skyrim. I think you'll probably see other legacy type games on PlayStation. So it's going to make this weird environment where there's still, like, some games that will go to PlayStation, but not everything. So, This will get even worse, by the way, actually, if Indiana Jones is multi-platform, because we don't know the state of that game, because the contracts were signed before the acquisition. If that game's multi-platform, that's only going to drive this discussion for even longer. And I think it's possible that that game's multi-platform. We truly don't know. But Bethesda made that, and you cannot breach contract. So if this was signed before with Lucasfilm to be a multi-platform game, unless Microsoft pays or renegotiates somehow for that game to be exclusive, just acquiring Bethesda is not enough because that contract was through Lucasfilm. So if that's also multi-platform, it's just going to keep that discussion going for even longer. All right, I'm going to go for 15 more minutes and then I got to bounce. 15 more minutes and I got to leave. Still have to go to work today, unfortunately. I'm not feeling it today. All right, 15 minutes and I got to go. Deadly 8 saying that they keep forgetting that I make streams on random days. I know, I'm sorry. It's just the only way it can work with my schedule. Ooh, yeah, this is interesting. Victor Flores, early access player for Battlefield 2042 here. I think EA has a reckoning coming with this one. It's bad. You know what? I've been playing Battlefield in early access too. The main thing I can say about Battlefield, which feels weird to say, but I feel like it's boring. You know? Like, I feel like... Listen, when Battlefield 2042 is at its best, when everything comes together, it is like one of the most epic things I've ever seen. Like because I've played it too in the early access because I'm a Game Pass Ultimate member, so I get the 10-hour trial through EA Play because it comes with Game Pass Ultimate. And when it comes together, like when all of a sudden you're in this middle of a giant firefight, there's freaking jets flying overhead, and you know that's real players, and there's tanks and stuff's blowing up, and it's like true, like all out. I mean, there are some moments I've had in that game that feel like true all out insane warfare. Like it feels crazy. The problem is I feel like most of the game's not that. Like so much of it's just running around. Like those maps are way too big, dude. Way too big in my opinion. Like it sounds crazy because usually you're always talking about like bigger and better, bigger and better. I literally hope part of the sales line for the next Battlefield is these maps are smaller. They're too big. The maps are too big. Everything's too spread out. It feels like there's no flow to the combat because it's so big and everyone's so spread out. It feels like just random things are happening and then sometimes it comes together to being epic, but huge amounts of time it's just like random stuff happening. So yeah, I'm way more negative on that game than I thought I'd be. Way more. It's just, like I said, to me it feels kind of boring. And I feel bad saying that. You guys know I'm a very positive person most of the time, but you know, it's boring for a lot of it. And again, the exciting moments are like incredible, but there's a lot of time it's not. Jose, over under on Switch sales on PS4 and PS2. Way over PS4. Like, no, there's literally 0% chance it doesn't outsell PS4 by a lot. PS2, I think it's going to be under PS2, to be honest. I could be wrong there, but I could be wrong, but I'm going to say way over PS4, but still a decent amount under PS2. But I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I think it'll be under PS2. But it's gonna blow past PS4, no doubt. Zero doubt. Deadly 8, my question for you today is, do you think PlayStation will start slowing down on releasing big AAA games? I remember Sean said fewer and bigger games. Is that still the plan or has it changed now? If that's the plan, it's a mistake and it won't be good for them. I can tell you that much right now. They cannot slow down. Nope. They can't. So, and I know he did say that at one point, but I wonder if part of these acquisitions is realizing that that's not going to work. The demand for content is too high, and you have someone like Microsoft being aggressive and getting a ton of exclusives in the future. They can't slow down. No, they can't. They absolutely cannot do that. So I would say they need a minimum of 3 big AAA games a year. Honestly, they need a minimum of 3 in the future. Like, I'm telling you, it's going to change in the coming years in terms of like exclusive content, which is why you're seeing people be so aggressive about acquisitions now, because I think that's become a known thing, that's changing. Third parties are still what carries the industry at large. But for these platform holders, you need at least 3 big games a year at least. JCat being super kind as always. JCat's amazing. Subscribe, hit the like button, and ring the bell to make sure you receive notifications from YouTube. Thank you, JCat. If you like doing these chats, like the video, subscribe. I'm sorry if I'm a little low energy today. I really apologize. I'm just totally out of it. I'm so out of it mentally. I'm like gone, y'all. It's been a really bad week for me. Really bad. Worst week of the year for sure for me was this past week. Mentally, just bad. All right. I think we had a super chat. We do have a super chat. Kellegrim. Holy cow, dude. No more super chats for Kellegrim. Kellegrim with a 10. A wild super chat appeared. LOL, random shout out to that guitar in the background. Sorry about the haters. The mods are on it though. Oh, it's fine. Like I said, I had to get used to it. Like the people being mean online is definitely, I would say, an adjustment period. Some people never get used to it. I had to, because like I realized early on, like and some people never do. Seriously, I know people even with huge followings that it still like eats them up getting mean comments. Like me, my depression doesn't have anything to do with that, like at all. Has nothing to do with that. My depression comes from like my inner self. But I had to get used to it. Like it used to trigger me hard. Like, and I think it does for anyone early on, you know, and I don't even have the biggest following, right? I think I've got like 30,000 on Twitter. So it's like a chunk, but like there's people with millions, right? I'm not even somebody that's famous, but like early on, as soon as you start getting somewhat of a following, you know, it doesn't matter. You're going to get negative comments. And at first, so this is advice for anyone that wants to like become anything. If you want to get a following, if you want to have like some sort of online presence, I'm telling you, you need to be prepared for this. There will be people that will be mean for literally no reason. And sometimes people are mean and they actually have a reason, right? I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I'm sure I'm a jerk to somebody at some point and then they're mean back. I'm sure I say something that someone thinks is stupid and they're mean about it. But you will also get people that literally will hate you and there's nothing you can do about it. And it took me a little bit to adjust to that. I mean, it used to trigger me hard. People would be mean and I'd get really upset. And now it mostly bounces off. I'm just like, oh, that person's mean. It's 1 in a million. Like, to me, I got numb to it. Some people feel the opposite. Some people get overwhelmed by it because they start to get so many mean comments that that's like all they can focus on. For me, it was actually the opposite. The more mean people that came around, the less I felt it, because I'm like, dude, I hear this every day. Like, I don't feel anything different because you said this, because somebody else is going to say it in like an hour. So it's like you got to get used to that. But yeah, in terms of the guitar, yeah, I need to get back to my guitar. I haven't been playing it enough lately. Haven't been playing it enough lately. But thank you, Kellegram. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for everyone that is kind. Like I said, there's way more of you that are kind than people that are mean. Way more. Way more. Way. It's not even close. It's not even close. All right. We've got about 8 more minutes, and I got to bounce. 8 more minutes. 8 more minutes. I got to go. Miles, nice comment. Hello there, Benji boy. I know you're facing depression. So do I. Keep pushing forward, mate. You too, Miles. You too, right? I'm far from alone in this. So many people fight depression. So many people. It's part of the reason why I feel like it's important for me to be open about it, because, I mean, it helps when you can relate to somebody, right? Like, yeah, I go through that too. And some people don't. You know, some people it does not affect them. But yeah, it affects me hard. Do you think it is possible that Disney might eventually cave in and enter the gaming medium again by buying someone like Ubisoft? Miles, I think their current strategy is to just license like crazy. Because I think, and this could change because they're so good at making, their own internal stuff. If you look at Marvel, like on the movie side, I mean, they're like by far the most successful movie distributor there is in the world right now, right? So it's like they're so good on the film side, it makes you wonder what they could become if they could have that same level of like success in gaming. Like how big could they go? I don't want to ever rule it out. It could eventually happen again, because at one point they did, but they just weren't successful with it. It could happen again, but I can't see it under their current CEO, Bob Chapek. He's like notoriously doesn't want to spend money, and he makes some decisions, frankly, that people are getting upset with. I'm curious how long he's going to be in that role, but I can't see it under him. Right now, I think they're just all in on licensing like crazy. Like, get Star Wars games being made by as many people as we can. Get Marvel being made by as many people as we can. I can't see them doing internal development, at least anytime soon. Not anytime soon. Yeah, Highlander has a great point. The bad part is Bobby is a majority stockholder. So to get him... Oops, sorry, it just moved. So to get him out will take a lot of money that it may hurt the company. Exactly. I think all these are elements why he hasn't been ousted yet. I bet if you got one-on-one with like most of these shareholders, I bet you on a personal level, most of these people probably are like, wow, this guy sucks. Like, he's a bad person. It'd be nice if he was gone, but I think also, like you mentioned, those stockholders are afraid of what it will do to the company's perception and share. I think it's worth the hit to take the hit now to get him out because he's a terrible person. Like, get him out, whatever it takes. But I think that's part of, Highlander, I do agree. I think that's definitely an element for sure. For sure. I think we had a super chat coming in here towards the end. Mariano Pampa here with a 10. What is up, Mariano? It's so good to see you, man. Hey, Benji, with Halo multiplayer hitting almost 273,000 at its peak, where do you see this hitting at launch? Keep your heads up, Benji. We are here with you, brother. Thank you so much, Mariano. Like I said, way more positive people out there than negative. So I like to focus on the positive people. So here's the thing. On the weekdays, it's like actually decreasing. And particularly I've noticed, because I've been watching this. You guys know me. I watch as much stuff as possible. It seems that the majority of people that are like losing the majority of Halo players that are bleeding, at least during the weekdays, it appears to be coming from Europe. Now, as we know, Halo has always been such a US focused franchise. Like, it's big in other markets as well, but like the US is where it is a juggernaut. And that appears to be the case still. So Halo hits its peak time actually very late in like US time. It's hitting its peak like around 9 p.m., 10 p.m. on the East Coast, which is obviously far after Europe and stuff goes to sleep. This actually isn't the case for every Xbox game on Steam. We saw games like Forza Horizon 5 and Age of Empires 4 hit their daily peaks actually much earlier, because it was a time when US was awake, like they were up. A lot of people work, but they're awake, but it's also prime time hours in like Europe and like Asia, like more towards that, area of the world. It actually wasn't peaking late, not at night like Halo does in US time. So clearly Halo is still, even with being free to play, so US heavy. Now it's going down. Yesterday's peak was less than Monday's peak. And then today's peak, especially in Europe, it was tracking 40,000 players behind than it was yesterday. I mean, this is a big drop. So, Mariano, we need to see how it does this weekend. I will say that if this game doesn't peak higher than it did Monday over the weekend, I'd be a little alarmed if I'm at 343 in Microsoft, because it is nearly universal. Not always, but near universal that your first weekend peaks higher than your launch day. almost always. Is there exceptions? Yeah. Like I said, as always, there's exceptions. But I'd say 90% probably of the big games on Steam, that first weekend's their biggest peak. So if this comes in under 270 this weekend, you really need to look at progression, and you need to look at it fast, because I think you need to get people into that hook. So it could, right? I'm not ruling out that this peaks higher this weekend. On Monday, I was convinced when I saw almost 273. I was like, this is going to hit 300,000 this weekend, which is nuts. Over 300,000 concurrent players. Keep in mind, launch day, Halo almost beat the all-time peak of Destiny 2 on Steam. That is impressive, okay? Because Destiny 2 is free to play, just like Halo is. And it's also a giant game. That game's all-time peak on Steam is 290,000. Halo on its launch day almost beat the highest Destiny 2 has ever hit on Steam. So that was like nutty, okay? Nutty that it almost did that. But it's still getting huge players. Like, it was over 200,000 concurrent yesterday. It's going to hit over 200,000 concurrent today. But it's not going up. It's slightly going down. And like I said, today it actually looks like a bigger drop than yesterday. So we need to see, Mariano. I don't want to rule out 300,000 plus. It can still happen. This weekend's going to tell us a lot, though. This weekend's going to tell us a lot. If it's still down over the weekend, then they might not ever beat their launch day peak. Okay. Dude, there's so many questions in chat I haven't gotten to. I just want to hit like one or two more. I wish I could hit more, but like, I gotta go. I still have to go to work today. I wish I could hit more. There's so many. All right, I'm literally gonna hit two more. I'm just gonna randomly pick two more, and then I'm out. Because I have to go. Beatrice, do you think we'll see a Guardians of the Galaxy 2? I've been playing the game, almost finished it, and the story and take on the Guardians is so good. I wish they would develop it further. I completely agree. I haven't finished this game because I actually got distracted by Forza and Halo. So I played a lot of Guardians, but Forza dropped, so then I started playing Forza, and then Halo came out of nowhere, so then I jumped onto Halo. So it pulled me away from Guardians, but I'm 100% going back to it in the next day or two to finish it. Game's amazing in my opinion. It's nice to see it get some nominations in the Game of the Year awards. It didn't get Game of the Year, but it got nominated in multiple categories at the Game Awards. But the launch data doesn't look good for sales. Beatrice, unless Guardians has great legs, which is possible because word of mouth is super good, okay? So we need to see how that affects, month 2, month 3. Unless, though, that happens, I actually don't think you see a sequel, as disappointing as that is, because that would be such a disappointment. But, the sales don't look good. Early sales don't look good, which breaks my heart to tell you, but they don't look good. But, again, you never know. Could have great legs. All right, one more, and I gotta go. Let me see. Let me go towards the bottom. Somebody that came in late. Break Commando. Benji-Sales, did you get an invite to the Game Awards? I saw some people on Twitter said they got an invite. I did not. Now, at one point, Jeff Keighley followed me on Twitter, but I don't know if he has unfollowed me. I try to not pay attention to who unfollows me, because that sometimes breaks my heart when people I really admire follow me and then they unfollow me. It has happened. I literally do not look at that stuff. I do not look, because I'm not going to name any names, but it's happened more than once where someone big in the industry that I really admired followed me for a while and then unfollowed me, and then you're like, oh man, what did I do? So try not to pay any attention to that. Jeff used to follow me. He may still follow me. I don't check. But I did not get an invite. I am not big enough, y'all. I'm not big enough. Like I said, I really admire 30,000 followers. It's amazing. The support the last like month and a half is insane. I've gained like thousands, plural thousands in the last like couple months. I so appreciate that. That's because of all of you. But, you know, companies don't really want to work with me yet, which is interesting. You see some people a lot smaller than me get like crazy offers and crazy work and like tons of free stuff and everything like that. It doesn't bother me at all. I feel like you got to earn your way in. I work hard, just do the best I can. But like no companies, I'm not talking about job offers because I've actually had some inquire with me about that. But like in terms of like that kind of stuff, like, hey, invites to award shows and like, hey, we're going to send you some stuff for, to help market our game. And like, do you want to do a preview event? Or like no one wants to work with me on that stuff yet. So all I can do is keep working. Hopefully eventually we'll get to the point where I could do something awesome like that, like go to the Game Awards. That would be amazing. But no, I'm nowhere near that yet, apparently, with publishers and people in the industry. So all I can do is keep working. That's literally all I can do. And again, I don't hold it against anyone. I totally understand. I'm not like some dude out. If I had like 1 million followers and I was some big giant famous person, would I maybe feel snubbed if I didn't get an invite? Maybe, but like, I'm not that big in the grand scheme of things at all. Okay, one more, because I'm not gonna count that as a question. Dreamwalker, Benji-Sales, you said Call of Duty sold 60 to 70% digital, if I remember correct, on Xbox last stream based on the GI Biz article. Yeah, it was for Far Cry. So like just that specific game. That one was like 66% digital. I'm off the top of my head. I think it was 66%. And then now they say it's 90%. I actually don't know if 90% was the correct percentage. I'd have to double check that. I think it was 80. Could be wrong. I think it was 80% of Call of Duty Vanguard sales were digital for Xbox. Anyways, where do these numbers come from? They come from official trackers in the UK. So, Dring has surprisingly, and I think he's actually doing this intentionally to help fix the narrative, because there has been a narrative that's been forming based off of UK physical charts. Like Xbox was like barely selling any software. It wasn't that PlayStation was selling more that was the problem, because as I've mentioned on this chat many times, PlayStation is basically going to pretty much always sell more third-party games than Xbox. They have a bigger install base. I believe they'll keep a bigger install base for the foreseeable future. I truly do not expect Xbox to almost ever outsell PlayStation like globally. I just cannot see it. So, but what was happening was you would see these physical charts come out, and the gaps between like what they were selling for software was enormous. We're talking like a bigger difference than what the install base alone can account for. And you started seeing a ton of this stuff pop up online, like Xbox is selling no games. How come people are buying Xboxes but they won't buy any games? Is this just because Game Pass? And I think Dring realized like that this was a bit of a problem. I don't know. I haven't talked to him about it. But you're seeing him become a little more forthcoming with digital and also like explaining splits and stuff more. And I think that's the main reason why, is because Xbox by ratio, we keep going over this, just it has a higher digital share. Now, PlayStation still sells more raw digital units overall. It's just the ratio that's different between the two. So that brings the total sales closer together. PlayStation's still ahead. It's basically always going to be way ahead. But it's not like these giant gaps that we see in physical software, because digital is making up some of that ground. Again, not all of it. That ain't going to change. PlayStation's still going to be the primary seller for 99% of third-party games, but that digital share is higher on Xbox by ratio, so it pushes the overall units to being more close to what the actual install base is. So I think that's why you're seeing Dring talk about this more, is I think he realized like people were miscommunicating stuff. All right, I got to go there. I wish I could go longer, but I've got to go. I literally have to go to work. I cannot push the stream even 5 more minutes. I have to go. Thank you, everyone that has come out to the chat. Thank you for everyone that's always so supportive and amazing. Hit the like button if you like doing these streams. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter if you don't, or whatever. I'll see you either next week here in the live chat if you only follow me on YouTube, because I will be back here next week. Otherwise, if you follow me on Twitter, I'm going to see you in like 10 minutes because I'm always on Twitter. All right, stay safe, play some games. Peace out, everyone. You're all amazing. And I will see you all very soon. All right, bye. Have a great couple days and weekend, everyone. See you next week. Bye, 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 bye. Peace.